Welcome, Guild members and visitors. We appreciate you taking this time to view the Masters of Art video. It is with immense honor and anticipation that I introduce to you an extraordinary artist and visionary in the realm of photography and visual communications, Amy Schade. With an unwavering dedication to capturing the intricacies of the human experience through her lens, Amy has ascended as a trailblazer in the field, seamlessly blending technical prowess with an innate ability to distill emotions into captivating visual narratives. As we embark on this journey of exploration and enlightenment within the realm of artistic expression, Amy's remarkable insights and boundless creativity serve as guiding beacons, illuminating the path toward a deeper understanding of the transformative power of imagery. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Amy Schade as she shares her expertise, passion, and profound insights with us today.
So thank you for coming out. When you do abstract, the most important thing, of course, is design and layout. My favorite is somewhere between non-objective or image-based. I do try to do some that are realistic, but none of my work has ever been photorealism because that's just not me. Some people do it beautifully. When I've tried it, it just turns into a big sloppy mess. So the photorealism is not my thing. But we'll go ahead and get started. This is acrylic on Yupo. Has anyone here worked on Yupo paper? Okay. What I like about Yupo is if you don't like what you're doing, you can take it out in the backyard and hose it off and start over again. You don't feel like you're wasting paper. This, I just started putting patterns and color down with nothing really in mind in particular. And a number of people, when they start in this direction, just picking out their color palette. You've seen people put the red cellophane on top of their work or put on the red lens glasses to just get a value study. For some reason, that doesn't work for me. I don't know if it's my eyes, my brain, the connection between the two. I don't know what it is. I have to put tissue paper on something because that kind of makes it quiet for me. And then I draw on the tissue paper to where I think I want to make the changes or what I want to turn it into. So for some reason that said floral to me. I don't know if it says floral to anyone else, but I started to see pots with flowers in them. Sometimes I will draw directly on it. I don't know if you can see, I have some white watercolor or acrylic crayon in here, places that I think I'll pick it out. Some changes that I make. Ordinarily, I either put tissue paper on it and pick out some shadows, or where I want to put a couple stems in. Another design element is repetition, but repetition with variation. And of course the variation, you can't just have petal shapes everywhere. You've got to get some lines in there, which is another design element, is line. So I have to figure out where do I want to put my lines, where do I want the dark values, the light values, where do I want to make changes. Another way we can do this is I take a photograph with my phone, send it to myself in an email, print it out from my computer. So this again was just a copy of that image, if you want to. And then this way I can make it smaller scale. And it's easier for me to see it this way than it is for me to stand across the room and look at it, because right here I can make the changes here instead of, walking 10, 15 feet away. Oh yeah, I want to do that. And then you run up to it and you don't remember where it was.
Right, because it's too big.
So this is just another approach that you can take. I don't know if that happens to anyone else.
Okay, that's funny. That's funny. Happens a lot.
Okay. But in this case, you can see some of the changes here, and I think I do have another photograph of this where You can see where I made some changes
Yeah.
in here, added some darks to kind of pick out the shapes of the pots. I do want to add another pot here. I think I want to bring back more of these square grids in here. And I did pick out some petals in here with some shadows. I was playing with it, that's as far as I got. But that's one approach. Yes, ma'am.
If you paint on the actual painting and you change your mind, is it easy to erase?
With acrylic, if you change your mind right away,
Okay.
you can sponge it off or paper towel.
But after that, you just paint
Spit on
over?
it a little bit and wipe.
Then you just paint over?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're doing it with watercolor, it's easier to lift
Yeah.
off, of course. But because I'm not always terribly certain of myself when I make the changes, that's why I do it on tissue paper first.
Oh.
Then if I don't like it, as a matter of fact, and we'll get to that a little later, I'll put tissue paper on top of the piece and draw what I think I want to turn it into.
Right.
And then I think, oh, but you know what? I don't want it placed here. I want it up here more. If you draw it on tissue paper, you just slide
The paper up.
And then you
And
think,
figure out
oh,
where
but
it
I have the
goes.
face turned this way, and I really want it turned this way. If it's on tissue paper, you flop the
Yeah,
paper up.
yeah, I
And
had
you
that.
don't have to erase and draw and erase and draw. and
That makes
erase and
sense.
draw.
That makes it easier.
So,
I wouldn't have the patience.
and this is before I picked out some of these shapes on here, just where I started adding some shadow. And you can see I even changed my mind a little bit since then. I got rid of some of the shadow down here. So, you know, it's always responsive. Yes, ma'am.
I'm really confused. Like U-boat paper, I've only heard it used with alcohol ink.
Oh,
'Cause
it's
it's
the same, it's the same thing. It's a polypropylene, a synthetic, a plastic product of some kind.
Right.
And it originated in the packaging industry, like for cosmetics and things like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and someone decided, I don't know who decided to paint on it, or maybe it was an accident.
Anybody.
They spilled paint on it and said, oh, that's cool, let's turn it
They
into...
paint on everything today.
Yeah, that could be it.
So
It's-
why are you using it, since you're using acrylic?
Because I wanted to try it and see what...
It's just a medium she's trying.
Yeah,
that's all-
and because I can hose it off in the backyard if I don't like it.
What do you normally use then?
Watercolor paper, or Yabo, or canvas, or panels.
So do you mount it after you're
Yeah,
done?
that's my
Or do you
question.
frame it under glass?
Yeah, that's what.
I had been putting them under glass, but just in the last couple months, I asked my husband to make cradle panels for me because they cost less if my husband
Right.
makes them than if I order them from Blick or Jerry's Artorama or whoever you order from.
Oh, yeah.
You can get the standard sizes, they're not bad, but my paintings don't always turn out standard sizes because if there's something that doesn't work design-wise, and we'll come to that later, I'll show you one that didn't work and what I did to correct it.
Amy, how do you adhere that special paper to the cradle board?
Acrylic medium,
Okay,
brush it all over.
yeah.
Put
Spray it
this
with a
image
sprayer? Yeah.
side down, so it's good and flat, and I usually put it maybe on a mirrored surface or a sheet of glass, so it's good and flat.
Okay, and pressure? Okay.
Brush the acrylic medium on the back of it, turn the panel upside down.
And
Yeah,
press.
yeah.
But that makes
And-
sense.
But that works really well for smaller pieces. I learned a lesson the hard way and was
Shifts.
very fortunate. I had a full sheet of watercolor paper instead of Yupo, the cotton fiber paper. Did the whole process, put my bricks on top to make sure it was laid down flat. Came back, I don't know, 30 minutes later to check on it. Took the bricks off, flipped it over, and it was all buckled underneath. And oh my gosh. So you try to pull the paper off, and fortunately it hadn't set yet, so nothing tore, but real quick, push it back down. Then I took one of those rollers.
A brayer. A brayer.
Yeah,
And from the center out to all the edges.
Yeah.
Yeah, like printmaking.
because it was
Yeah.
too wet, it was too wet.
I think
Yeah.
so. I
Absorbed
think
too
so.
much.
Or it started to dry more on the
You
outside
end up
than it
with
did
air
the center,
bubble.
and that
Itself,
caused it
yeah.
to buckle. But smaller pieces aren't so bad. And the Yupo, I think, holds its shape better than a cotton rag paper.
So you're mounting it on a piece of
I'm
wood.
interested in that paper.
Panel.
How do you spell that?
Masonite,
Well,
Yupo.
thank
How do
you.
you spell that?
Y-U-P-O.
Oh, that's easy.
Yes,
Very expensive.
Yeah.
That's
Is
the
it?
Yupo paper.
Is it?
Yeah.
slate.
I don't
I
remember.
looked into it for alcohol ink because I've seen
Okay.
alcohol paint work. It's beautiful. But I've never seen Yupo paper that big.
Oh, this, I bought it on a roll. You can buy, like you buy a roll of watercolor paper, you can buy a roll of
It's like a roll of print
And I
paper.
think, yeah, and I think I got the roll from
Oh,
Cheap
I'm sorry.
Joe's would be my first
Yeah,
guess.
volunteer?
Because they ship right to the house. So that is where I changed some of the shadows, added a couple more squares into the grid, and picked out some of the flower shapes just in the foreground. Certainly it needs a lot more work, but that's the process. And that's as far as I got on that before I got tired of it and wanted to do something else.
Amy, when you do your first pass, when you do all your texture, are you doing that with acrylic or acrylic ink or what?
Acrylic paint.
Just acrylic paint?
Acrylic paint, and in this particular case, I used, you put it in your kitchen sink. It's like a plastic or
A grate.
I don't want to call it neoprene, so you don't break your dishes in the sink.
Oh, I've seen
And
that.
then you apply your paint with a brayer, and then push it onto your paper and...
Can you use an ice cube
Right,
tray?
yeah.
You could.
Yeah, I mean, anything with those shapes, yeah.
Uh-huh. But I knew I wanted the repetition of the
It-
squares.
it-
I had to
bubble
have
wrap, I've
something
heard of.
structural to start
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, bubble wrap.
It looks like lattice work. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it
The
does.
shading of
You know,
lattice.
maybe it does a little bit, because on the sides...
And almost, you know, like they're on
Yeah.
a table and it's the lattice.
Works like
Yeah.
a garden theme, too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
Or the
scene.
shadow through a lattice is cast on it
Yeah.
or something. Okay. Maybe that's why it said floral to me in the first
Yeah.
place, because I didn't have floral in mind when I...
Is that how you always start, with repetition with a design?
Repetition, sometimes I block it out or wipe it off depending on if I want to go
Balance.
with symmetry or asymmetry, or if I want to play with the white space, or change my color palette. Design elements, design principles. And
So then, Amy, do you take your tissue paper off of it then, and then,
well, I will, but
I mean, and then?
Where you flip back and forth to see
yeah,
the thing.
yeah. Usually, I have
She's
a little
flipping.
piece of tape here that I just tape it up here and then draw on here, and then I pull this down and set. Because
see
you
what
have to
else
You don't want it to
readdress
move.
and see. Okay, I put these shadows in here, but now this side doesn't look right, so then you have to draw
I never worked
again.
with tissue paper, that's so interesting. 'cause that-
Well, that's the coward's way out. That's how I do it, because I
No, I
am
think
not
it's great.
always able to make my decision, boom, now that I know what I want to do right then. This is on canvas, acrylic on canvas. Again, non-objective. I was trying to play with, of course, a color palette, but I wanted the repetition of the orbs and repetition of line and working with white space. I like to do a lot of things like Sudoku puzzles, so when I do artwork, I try to create a puzzle that I can try and solve it. And sometimes I will do things that you're not supposed to do, like put something dead center, and then you have to do something else everywhere else to make it work. I try to do something you're not supposed to do and then try to solve the puzzle. I don't know how else to say it.
I like that.
So what was your process with that other one?
The
Amy?
last one?
Yeah,
That was just,
I mean, you started with your drawing?
no, I just started painting. I just started painting.
Shapes?
Yeah. Which is similar to what you do.
Yeah. And then you did your drawing?
So what tools, are you using a brush?
I
or
used a
pen?
brush on this, and then I may have taken some acrylic crayon to add
Okay.
a couple,
I was wondering how you got, yeah, the line works with the,
okay, either with a brush or, how many of you have heard of Marabou, the
Oh, yeah.
acrylic crayons? They're almost like lipstick. They're a lot of fun to work with. You can smear them with your fingers, and I think it takes close to 24 hours or 48 hours for it to dry.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of play time in there that if you want to alter it or erase it. But it twists out of its applicator like a lipstick. So it's kind of fun to work with.
it's called Marabou?
M-A-R-I-B-U.
Yeah, that's a,
M-A-R-A-B-U. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is one
I think I
where
got it.
I did what you're not supposed to do. Dead center, and I put my horizon line almost halfway, top to bottom, which is two things they tell you never do, right? And then I also almost had it divided into thirds, the way my horizontal lines go, and I said, oh, what the heck am I going to do now? So I tried to lift out spots of white to kind of make direct your eye through it to pull you in like a bullseye, which probably wasn't necessary because the strongest red is the bullseye, but I thought it worked out pretty well. I thought it was a fun solution. And that's one that is more closer to realism for me, even though it's not terribly realistic. I think people can tell two people under a tree looking out at the water. I mean, it reads that way, so. That is
Sensational.
acrylic.
That's one of my favorite
And,
pieces.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Went the wrong way, sorry.
It's fabulous in your photos, but you should see this in person.
I know, it's gorgeous.
This is acrylic and collage. And I brought some pieces for you to look at that I just like to, I like to add something else into it, and I really love typefaces and print, so I like to stick those in.
Now, where do you get this stuff?
I sit down on the computer and I pull something up and I type and type with it. It doesn't have to say anything. I just get a bunch of letters and
Oh, you're
then I
typing
take
the
it
word,
to
yeah.
Staples and say, well, my computer printed it black on white, but I want you to reverse it, and they do that. Because I'm not very good on the computer. If it's
You could save some
digital
money.
or electronic, I'm lost. So I go to Staples and tell them what I want, and then they
It's so powerful.
And
And
they
a
do it,
girlfriend-
they print it on what? On transfer paper? What?
printer paper.
Oh.
Printer paper. This is
That's how I do everything.
stamped paper that a friend of mine carved her own stamps, and she let me use them, and I just filled
Oh,
up
that's
the
cute.
paper and cut that out and used pieces of that in a different piece, not this piece of artwork, but another piece. So how many of you look at a piece that you thought was finished and then you think, oh, maybe I could go back and tweak it here?
Are you kidding?
Okay. So I'm thinking just for design's sake, I would like to come back where the green comes up into the letters and pull the letters into the green a little bit.
Oh,
more.
that
Like I
would
want
be
to
cool.
It feels like
marry it a
it's,
little bit more.
feels like it's heavy.
Oh, well, I might make it a little.
No, I meant the pull,
Oh.
because that's what it needs.
Okay, that could be, but for some reason, I want to come in right here and have, with
Yeah.
a black crayon.
Because all your other lines are softened,
Yeah.
and that is like
So
more
I think-
distinct.
But this was painted on top of a black and white painting, which is in here somewhere. And
Oh.
there are,
Because you didn't want it? The black and
I
white
just
show?
finished with it, and
Okay.
I looked at it long enough, and I thought,
Yeah, photos like
time
that.
to move on. And this is watercolor on paper and then mounted on board. Again, when I did this, there was probably another at least 4 inches of paper across the bottom, and I thought, oh, I need another lemon, and I knew I wanted it going off the edge, and then I did that, and I looked at it and said, no, it just still doesn't, I had too much white space. So again, you have to always go back to your design elements and decide, well, I could add lemons forever. It's not going to correct it. I need to get rid of the white. And that's what I had to, you know, and if you
There would have been too many lemons.
sometimes it clicks. I don't know, I just,
That's beautifully done.
oh, thank you. She's a cheerleader for me. She always makes me feel so good. That again is about as close to realism as you'll see me get. This is what started, the black and white one that started that I added the other colors, just and put the type on the left.
You didn't know what you were going to do with it?
It's powerful, black and white though, too.
Well, it was fun. I needed it for a
that
black and white show. And
Is that
Yeah.
the black and white show, or is that the 12 by 12?
That's from the black and white,
Yeah.
but I pulled it out to revisit it. And I thought, well, I might be able to turn that into a floral, we'll see.
They'll take photo, x-rays of it.
like this one.
Oh, they'll take x-rays of it and say, what happened here?
I like that.
They'll find the hidden.
Again, type, I like
Oh,
to put
look at
letters
that.
in things, and I really like non-objective. This has foil, kitchen foil, collage
Oh, I see this
underneath
speckles.
it, and then I put the color on top of it, so it had a little bit of silver
Just in
showing.
sections, or the whole thing you covered in foil?
I think just in sections.
Yeah, like that little piece.
The
of
bottom.
that Bottom.
And dress
center.
pattern paper. I think I've
Oh,
got some of that.
God,
I see
I
that.
probably don't have any anymore.
Maybe I don't have dress pattern paper. Oh, yes, I do, but I put letters on top of it. But
Oh, that's
anyway.
funny.
And then you can
Oh,
tear
you
it up.
printed on it,
Yeah.
okay.
Because it's nice and thin to collage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
gives you
See, the
one
way
more
you
design
have the
element.
blue joining your typeset, that's
Okay.
what I think you're
I love
trying to
that.
achieve
Yeah,
with
that's
the
beautiful.
vase and the red painting. That's
Yeah.
all
With the
the
green.
That's, yes.
Yeah, you
I
need a
needed to
little-
overlay, there's not
That's
enough
exact-
connecting.
yeah.
Yeah. This newsprint and colored tissue paper and crayons.
Oh,
So that's at the wire club now. I had a thing with squares for a while. So I used masking tape to block off some of it after I put some of the color down, put some graphite in with the pencil, and then used a squeegee to get a clean edge and define where the square was. And these, the dots that you see scattered around, if you catch your acrylic before it's altogether dry and throw some water
Yeah.
at it, and then let it dry, and then come back with a squeegee and pull the water off.
Oh, it moves.
Anywhere the water
Now, say that
was
again.
split.
yeah.
You have your acrylic, but before it dries, all together, it still has to be tacky. I stick my hand in my water and, you know,
You can
wherever
spread
I think
it to
I want.
the water.
Oh, and
You
then-
could
and
use a
then
spray
just-
bottle if you want it more consistent. Then I let the acrylic dry, and the water is still beaded up on it, and use your squeegee to pull it off. And wherever your water was is where, and if you have color underneath, your earlier color will show, or the color of your paper. Again, I have a thing with squares and stripes and dress pattern paper. This was painted on top of something that had a lot of color. And I put the tape down where I wanted to reserve the color, put dress pattern around to leave the white shape,
That's neat.
and blocked out the white.
Neat idea.
So,
What's your
How did the
substrate
dress-
there?
I'm sorry?
What's the substrate there? Is that?
Paper.
water? Just
Dress
paper?
paper.
Just paper?
Again, that's about as close to realism as you'll see me get. That's a quarter sheet, I think, kitchen table. That's another quarter sheet, not terribly realistic, but I think it reads as horses.
Yeah.
Or it suggests horses out in the field somewhere, I hope. This is on paper, and again, paper that I wrote. And I'll tell you how to do this too, if you have it, if you care to know. Coffee grounds with acrylic on tissue paper.
For texture.
I put pine needles in. sandwich them in between.
Wax paper.
If you want that, well, this is tissue paper, but it has acrylic medium. And the
that's
pine needles
clever.
are kind of sandwiched.
You just
in
glued
between
it
there.
together, okay.
Do you do like a Mod Podge effect, like a first layer, put the item you want to glue on,
Yeah.
then another layer, or you just glue it on the base?
I put okay. This can be messy, so always, I put a trash bag down, tape a trash bag onto my work surface. Then I put a piece of tissue paper down and brush acrylic medium on it. Then I sprinkle or scatter the coffee grounds or place, string, whatever I want to do with it. Brush more acrylic, put another piece of tissue paper, brush acrylic, and sometimes you have to really mash it in, you know, depending how tight you want the fit to be. Let it dry, and then after it's dry, you can peel your trash bag off the back, and your work surface doesn't get so messy.
It's like a
This,
sandwich.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. This, I
Make
think,
lampshades.
I think I want to play with this a little and maybe like a stained glass window,
Looks like
add some
Japanese
color some
rice
places, and then maybe pull some of the paper away and let just the
start
strings
weaving.
hang. I don't know. I made it to play with.
Well, see, that's the thing.
Maybe
That would be great to start on.
This again is more of my friend's stamps. She let me borrow her stamps and I just filled up a page.
That's
with them.
amazing.
This is raffia. I think it's all raffia. Sandwiched in paper. You can put anything you want.
Before
If
you-
it's
No, I'm
acrylic
serious.
and sandwiched in between the plastic, the acrylic is plastic, so it kind of sandwiches and preserves things in there. I haven't had anything get moldy on me yet. I hope it doesn't. But this has the coffee ground paper in it on its side. And some of the type again. And I used a squeegee for some of the broad strokes. So,
I have so much old
this is on
paper.
Yoko again. And this, Donna, you and I worked together on these, where we just started slapping acrylic down
Hard time.
on Yoko and then it turned into something. And I don't know. You can see there's some bubble wrap in there. And then, of course, I didn't want the dots all to be in the bottom corner, so I had to go out and lift them out elsewhere to
Pop them
unify
all.
it again.
Are you using fluid acrylics to get that consistency?
Tube acrylics.
Tube?
But
Are you watering
I
those?
water them down with
Oh,
my
okay.
brush. I get a wet brush.
Have you ever worked with the fluid acrylics?
I have one bottle of green color. And that's, I'm trying to use up what I have before I buy more. Trying to watch my
Because I
pocketbook.
like the dots, the patterns.
More sunflowers, and my apologies for the glare on this, I didn't have the angle right. But, again, line, and I just like to put chunks of color, so I started putting little dots or squares, or just scatter them around. I didn't think it was working before I had that in there, so I needed something to, like, put a pattern on top of it. And I don't know why, some people like patterns and some don't. So if you don't like patterns, then you won't like my work. Would be my guess. More patterns again.
That's really nice.
And that's, yes, bubble wrap again, and brushwork, and some of it I lifted out just with maybe a Q-tip or a
What
clean
size
brush.
is that, Amy?
Uh,
Oh, that's a small one?
Most of them aren't big.
No, they're mostly big game.
I don't, this is a small one. This is maybe a quarter of,
Oh, okay.
the image is a quarter of this.
That's beautiful.
Okay, we already saw
Oh,
that.
that's neat.
This is a large canvas with putting different sizes of masking tape down again. And I do have a little bit of paper collaged underneath there just because I wanted some texture. It all got covered with paint, but the texture is one more pattern if you get it wrinkled enough. So if your image isn't working as well as you want it to, you still have like a unifying pattern overall, but underall, I should say, it's underneath, but it kind of helps with your design elements.
And the textured paper underneath was the tissue paper, the double layer tissue paper?
Yeah. It may have been brown wrapping paper. May have been that. And that is either paint or gesso that,
Like a crap.
And what's your favorite acrylic medium? And what body do you get?
I get the tubes. Mostly, every manufacturer is different. The Liquitex seems to be the heaviest and the thickest. So I water those down sometimes.
Do you find they last pretty well, or do they dry out? These colors?
The paints,
Yeah.
it depends how much I water them down. It just takes a little more time to dry that way. I got a tube or two of Blick, and I loved the color, but it was too transparent for me, so I had to keep going over and over and over it. But this, you get the texture in the paper if your acrylic is still wet, and you fold your paper and then while the paint's wet, pull it apart. So that gave me some texture here. Where I didn't want the texture, I just brushed it out, or maybe pulled a squeegee across it. Again, shapes. This is Madonna with sunburn. And my daughter and her friend came to show, and they said, but we don't get it. They thought I was talking about the singer Madonna. Oh my God. Like in church, the mother and the child. So it's a generational thing.
She's very big lady brain.
That's a nice one.
This is some of the paper, the brown paper that I just passed around. The solid whites are computer paper, printer paper, and white tissue paper, if you can see through it, and some dress pattern paper in there where I wanted to get it a little warmer in some spots. And magic marker, where I just needed to add some other elements to it. That is probably 21 inches square, to give you an idea of size, because actually I think I do have that. That was a piece of watercolor paper with the end cut off.
So Amy, when you're putting all of that paper down, collaging it on, you're just putting a layer of medium on, putting the piece of paper on and rolling it out to keep it flat?
Or with my brush.
Yeah, okay.
Do you put the medium on the top and the bottom?
Yeah.
And at the end, do you ever unify your surface with anything?
My husband does. Because I don't know what's in the aerosol cans.
Oh, that's
The
interesting.
Oh, you
clear
spray.
UV spray, whatever it's called. I get real tight, so he does it out in the garage, and then you of course can still smell it in the house, but less if you do it out in the garage. And he sprays them for me because I don't like to smell that.
With what? What's the spray?
He either uses Rust-Oleum or Krylon, and it comes in a satin finish, a clear or matte, a crystal clear or matte. And
Which finish?
I usually do the crystal clear for the first coat. And the only reason I do that is because I'm told when you use acrylic mediums that you would brush on, the kind that you buy from Liquitex or Golden, that if you put the satin or the matte on, that subdues your color a little bit. So I use the crystal clear first so that I'm not diminishing any of the chroma. And then if I want a satin finish, that would be, or a matte finish, that's my last coat. But I use the crystal until then.
And it's spraying the whole time, you don't do any brush varnishing? It's all
Correct.
spray?
I used to
Okay.
do the brush varnish, and I don't know what element in my painting it was. It smeared, and I had it drying for a week before maybe my brush was too coarse, the hair in the brush was too, so I thought, you know what, that's my husband's headache and not mine.
What's the product called?
It's either Krylon or
That's the brand.
Rust-Oleum.
But what's the
It's-
name of the spray?
It's a clear,
It's clear.
it's a spray.
But is it a
It's
varnish?
a
varnish.
spray
Like a
paint.
varnish.
Spray paint
You
varnish.
can buy it in the hardware store, you can buy it in A.C. Moore or Michael's if you want to pay more. You can get it in
Walmart.
Walmart. And I get it wherever
It's
they
just a
have the
varnish.
spray paint, it's just the clear.
But just make sure it says acrylic. And there is one that you can use for oil.
Okay?
Yes.
I don't do oil, so
Yeah, but
I can't
but
tell you about that.
We have a question back here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Because I was going to get you no matter what. Why acrylic medium as opposed to like glue and water mixed or Mod Podge? Is there a
I guess
reason?
you could use those. I just use Liquitex or Golden because the people that I studied with told me that's what to use.
I think it's
haven't
the
tried-
binders.
Plus,
It's
it's
not-
Yeah, they're more,
UV protected,
yeah, if you
too.
use with
Thank
the
you.
binders that are in them.
The golden is UV protected.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured if I go to a workshop and they say use this product, I think that's what
Yeah.
I'm paying for the
Yeah.
workshop for is to learn this. So I don't question it. I use
taught
it.
Head Start, so I did glue and water.
Did it yellow
Yeah.
for you or anything else? Do you remember?
Not for, well, the kids took their stuff home eventually, so, not that I noticed, while we were doing it.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
would take a while, yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
do
use
you're
tacky
right, the
glue.
yellowing, that might make a
To coat things.
difference too.
I've only ever used the Golden or
Okay.
Liquitex. Acrylic on canvas, but I did put dress pattern paper down underneath because I thought I wanted some lines going through it. But then I ended up painting over most of them, so you only see
can't
2 or
see
3
it.
lines anyway. But I was happy with where it was, so I quit. This is, again, printer paper, where you see the solid white and scratch through some of it. Printer paper where you see the smallest figures pretty much dead center and up a little bit. And on the right, those are acrylic peels. And I just kind of cut them out to the shapes of people, I thought, and put them on again with acrylic medium. So, again, you're looking for some kind of balance, some kind of movement or motion, asymmetry instead of symmetry. Not everybody, I like asymmetry. And you work on it till you think you're happy with it. That's a full sheet of watercolor paper. This is 30 by 30, and I put aluminum foil under the paint first because I wanted a little bit of silver to show through. That's acrylic paint on top of that, and that's on a panel. And that's probably 21 by 21. That's on watercolor paper, acrylic. You've seen those rubbery placemats. You know what I'm talking? The foam rubber placemats. That's
With
what
grids.
gives the little tiny
Yeah.
dots. Bubble wrap in the top left where the dots are bigger, and then I just added some with I don't know, probably a cap from the detergent bottle or something, and watercolor crayon.
So you do that on wet paint, and then you just lift it right away, or you let it dry and then pull your pattern off?
With the bubble wrap, with the small dots and the medium dots, I put it on, and then I lift the plastic on,
On wet
because if it dries, it'll stick.
Yeah.
And then I let that dry, and then I go back and either paint some out, like in the top right corner, there were dots up there, but I didn't want them there, so I painted them out. On the left side, some of the white dots came down behind, but I didn't want them there, so I painted them out. Yeah, just decisions that you make. It's always responsive painting.
When you're lifting out paint, will it lift off of almost any kind of surface, or are you using the UPO for that?
This is on paper, watercolor paper.
So it did lift the paint right off and just left that white underneath?
No, that was white paint
Oh, okay,
with bubble wrap.
okay. Oh, I see. I thought you were lifting the paint off.
It's
No.
the opposite.
I got
And then, again, just design elements. I didn't have enough green, so I had to scatter some over here or color in some of the dots on the left corner. Just decisions you make as you, I mean, you've all done it. You've all done it. Watercolor, the images, wet on wet. That was an early one, and that again is probably as realistic as the most realistic I get. This is watercolor on Yopo.
Nah,
What the heck?
turn it off, Joanne. Well,
I
no,
think I
just
brought this
answer it
with
and,
Here,
That's over here.
I have to call you
Okay.
back on that.
That's over here, and again, it's just canvas and paint and watercolor
I'll
crayon.
tell you the whole story.
And I brought that also, this one's small enough to pass around, and this is, I don't know what it is, I just have a thing for letters, letter forms.
Keith Haring, yeah.
And
It's awesome.
Well, or it's,
so that's,
It does look like Keith Haring.
I brought this along. It's against the wall, and again, tissue paper with, where I used a stencil and added letters to it. This is textured paper, the brown stuff, and
What is on the
that's
bottom?
like packing that you get when people ship you
No.
things.
yeah, I save all that
What's
stuff.
it on?
And then your
I got tons of them in my
starts to turn into a
room,
big
but-
trash bin, doesn't it?
No, I have a room that's stuffed with all this stuff. I'm serious.
And the little white pieces are things that I took out of my husband's shredder because I wanted some motion, like something falling across the piece.
Amy, do you want me to hold this up so we can look at it?
Oh, there it is.
If they want to.
Yeah, sure.
If they want to see it, yeah. Oh, that's the end. What do I have? I think I have.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
I do have.
That's great.
I told you how I print things out on the computer instead of standing across the room.
No.
I
No.
had a piece that I thought was pretty, I was very taken with it myself. And the more I looked at it, I thought, oh my gosh, the design elements are working so well, I wanted to flip it this way and do another painting. That's how well it was working. Sometimes I print them out in color, sometimes I print them out in black and white so I can decide where do I need a darker value or a lighter value. And as I look at this now, I thought it was finished, but
There's always
I
something.
think like a shape up here, maybe I want to make it a little bit darker behind these figures. Maybe. I'll go home and color on that and see what I can do. But that's my process. I photograph it, either draw on the photograph or remove the color or turn it this way to see if I can get another piece or tissue paper. But it's always an experiment. These are this was the first piece, which I do think is the most successful of the two. But that was the one, this is Rush Hour. And then I thought, well, I'm going to do a left-right flip, and that's one that is kind of copied, but just the other way around. Not as successful the second time around, but I can keep working on it. Or I can give it to my son-in-law who likes motorcycles. He'll be happy with it. And I guess that's about it. This is, oh, I gotta tell you one more thing. How many people use molding paste in their, go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's called DAP,
Yes,
like spackling?
yes, it's for mosaics, yeah.
Okay, so that's what this
But
is.
it's cheaper too, isn't it, Amy?
Yes, that's what,
Yeah.
I saw what the molding paste costs.
What's wrong?
Well, if you coat it, you can, it didn't work for me.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm, putting paint on and lifting it off all the time, and it would dissolve on me.
Do you have to let it dry first and then put your?
Well, even after it was totally dry.
Well, I put clear acrylic
So
on
you put
it
clear.
after I put the,
Oh, that would make
I
sense.
put the spackling
Sealed
on,
it.
carved out what I wanted, then
Okay.
put clear acrylic, and then I put a little
Oh,
bit
that
of
was-
crayon in there because I wanted a little bit of color, and then,
Oh, you just made this worth coming tonight, just save
Okay.
on modeling paste.
all right, well, yeah, save a penny
That's
wherever you
great,
can,
that's
right?
wonderful.
Save a penny wherever you can. So that's
Thank you
it.
so much.
And thank you for coming out tonight. I really thought it was such a beautiful
Become a part of our thriving art community. Simply reach out to us using the contact information provided below. Whether you're interested in joining as a member, attending one of our events, or volunteering your time and expertise, we welcome artists of all backgrounds and levels of experience to join us on this creative journey. Connect with us today and discover the countless benefits of becoming a member of the Pottstown Area Artists Guild. We look forward to welcoming you into our community and supporting you on your artistic path.